So I tried some sunless tanner and it looked great for like a day. Now I'm just trying to recover from the splotches and the staining and the none of my makeup matching my face. Poor me. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Crue Trime. Crue Trime, Crue Trime, Crue Trime. If this is your first time here, hello! My name is Sarah, and what I do here is tell you a terrible story to ruin your day and put on my makeup at the same time. So if that sounds like fun to you, you are in the right place. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification, and then that way you will never miss one of my terrible stories. Today's episode of Crue Trime was recommended by a lovely viewer named Candace H. Hi, Candace! Candace actually has a personal connection to this case, but we'll come back to that. Thank you again for sharing. This is the story of Kelly Bullwinkle. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. Number one, I'm putting on makeup because otherwise I'm just staring in the camera, talking. And two, I don't really talk about what makeup that I am using, so if you're interested to know, look down in the description box because I link everything. On October 4th, 2003, 3 teenagers were playing paintball in a wooded area of San Mateo Canyon in Redlands, California. This area, referred to as Ghost Town, is very rural, and although there are orange groves, it's isolated enough that teenagers like to hang out away from prying adult eyes. On that day, the teens encountered a terrible aroma. They followed it to an open area where they found an abandoned car, some trash, an old couch lying over what looked like a hole with a human foot sticking out. So they immediately called the Redlands Police Department, and the person who responded, Detective Chris Catren, said that they had already been working on a missing persons case. So before responders even arrived, they were pretty sure that they knew who was found. And that was 18-year-old Kelly Bullwinkle. So who is that? I'm glad you asked. So Kelly Laurel Bullwinkle was born on June 8th, 1985 to Diana and Robert Bullwinkle. Can we just pause for a moment for the amazing name Bullwinkle?
But your name is Bullwinkle.
I know, but that's hard to spell.
Obviously, that's a real last name. I guess you never hear it outside of cartoons. So Robert and Diana were married in El Paso, Texas in 1975, but they ended up divorcing when Kelly was very young. They had no other children. Growing up, Kelly loved horses, reading, and writing poetry. She loved going to thrift shops and making her own clothes. And when Kelly was 14, she and her mom moved to California. Kelly attended Redlands East Valley High School. Redlands is nestled between Los Angeles and Palm Springs, and in 2003, the population was 63,000. So Redlands is a very close-knit, small town vibes, like squeaky clean atmosphere. Very low crime rate, obviously. So Kelly was, pretty introverted, but a sweet girl. She was a good student. She played clarinet in the band. She was an athlete. In her junior year of high school, she got an honorable mention for an essay she wrote on the danger of drugs. And she lettered in track and cross country. It was that same year that she met and made friends with an older girl named Kinsey Nordman. Kinsey Jean Nordman was adopted when she was 4 days old. This was common knowledge in her family, not a secret. She was an only child, and her parents celebrated her birthday as well as her gotcha day, which, like the day they got her. Do you guys celebrate your pets' gotcha day? Just curious. So Kinsey had a very loving family. She was very close to them growing up. She was described as a very nice girl, kind and caring. She was an animal lover and vegan. She had once gone on a hunger strike at the high school over them serving meat in the cafeteria. She was known as somebody who would stand up for the underdog. But her interests started to change, and she got more into moody, emo, dark stuff. She was wearing dark clothes, goth vibes, you know what I'm saying. She had also struck up a friendship with a boy named Damian Guerrero. Okay, so Damian Matthew Guerrero was a senior and a shithead. He also grew up in Redlands. He lived with both parents and he had one older brother. Excuse me while I highlight my clavicle. He delighted in picking on those who were younger and weaker than him. In elementary and middle school, he picked mostly on, the girls. More than one person reported that, he liked to hurt animals, kittens especially.
Instantly, I was like, yeah, no.
Disgusting. I mean, there is nothing worse. There isn't. Well, this all seems very contrary to him being friends with someone like Kinsey. She was a very nice girl, but she was also changing. She's in high school, she's trying to figure out who she is, whatever. So there is a kind of romanticized version of Damien being some kind of like heartthrob. That's mostly in the documentaries about this case that I've seen, but it's not really an accurate portrayal of who he really is or was. In his senior year, Damien had a girlfriend named Elodie. She was in the same grade as Kelly. They were on again, off again, like normal teenage relationships, But Kinsey and Damien were like peas and carrots. They bonded over movies like Natural Born Killers, watching it over and over. So cliche, but you get it. They were tight. So Kinsey, Kelly, and Damien were like besties.
BFFF. Best fucking friends forever, man. Seriously.
It really is kind of an odd trio if you think about it, because Kelly was super nice, Kinsey was super nice, but changing, and this Damien was like a douche, like a total shithead. But if Kelly was best friends with Kinsey, and then Kinsey was best friends with Damien, it's just sort of like, whatever, you know how these things are in high school? High school's weird. Kelly actually had a huge crush on Damien, and at some point they hooked up, but quietly, on the secret. And remember, Damien was on again, off again with this girlfriend, Elodie, and he would get back together with her, but he would keep messing around with Kelly on the hush-hush. I mean, what a delight, this guy. So during Kelly's senior year in high school, she was left alone a lot because her mom was actually in the military and she had to leave a lot for work, and she would be gone for long periods of time. Although she did have a roommate named Laura who was home more often and could keep an eye on Kelly. So Damien and Kinsey had already graduated and they were attending the local community college. When it was time for Kelly's senior prom, she took Kinsey as her date. At the dance, they kind of put on a show for the other students, like just kind of for funsies, They were slow dancing and they even kissed. As I mentioned, this was for shock value. So taking Kinsey as her date might have also been motivated by the fact that Elodie was bringing Damien as her date. And remember, Kelly had a big crush on him. Well, at the prom, there was some kind of big, girl drama situation. But during it, Elodie blurted out that Kelly was a virgin, which was a huge betrayal to Kelly, especially in front of Damien. Oh, high school. How I don't miss it, not even for a fucking second. Okay, anyways, so after this fight, things were tense for a long time, but they eventually did make up. But, things were just off with Kinsey and Damien. Kinsey didn't like that Kelly had been spending time alone with him. Okay, so you remember how I mentioned that Damien liked to pick on little girls? Well, he was relentless with Kelly. Anytime she was around, he was especially mean to her. And, Kinsey, Kelly's supposed friend, would join in. I mean, we can maybe guess that Kelly was happy to get any attention at all from Damien, and maybe he was compensating a little bit, trying to throw the scent off of their secret excursions. On top of, just being a shithead. Anyways, so Kelly eventually graduated from high school and she got a job at a local drive-through restaurant called Baker's. Damien, Elodie, and Kinsey would come in, sit in her section, and be horrible to her. They would make fun of her. They would, try to get her to drop trays, just anything that they thought could upset her. And they weren't joking around. Like, they weren't trying to be funny. Like, these are just assholes. Just being mean to her.
You can't sit with us!
Okay, so Kelly had a couple of other friends, not in this toxic friend group, that she used to talk to about this crush that she had on Damien. She revealed to them that they spent time alone and kissed. According to Kelly, when they were alone together, he was very sweet and sensitive. It seems like everybody but Kelly knew that he was just playing her. On June 8th, 2003, Kelly's 18th birthday, she, Kinsey, Damien, and another friend of Kelly's named Amy Locust, they headed out together to see a movie. The movie was playing at a theater about 30 minutes away, and the whole way Damien and Kinsey were picking on Kelly. Before they even got to the theater, they pulled the car over and ordered Amy and Kelly to get out. These fucking assholes. Well, once the girls got out of the car, Kinsey and Damien drove away. She told Kelly, sorry, they're probably going to come back, but I've had enough. She couldn't stand being around them for like 1 minute more. And you know what? She's right, okay? They were dicks. She also did not understand at all why would somebody as sweet as Kelly put up with that shit. But, we know why. She was stigmatized. In August of 2003, Kelly started attending Crafton Hills College, but she planned to move away and study psychology and creative writing at Sonoma State in Northern California. She had finally drifted away from this friend group, and she had made new friends at her job and at college. For the first time in a long time, she was actually very happy. On September 13th, she made plans to meet up with her friend Amy, the same one from, the car takeoff. They were going to meet up after she got off work at Baker's, but when she got there, Kelly's car was already gone. So Amy drove by Kelly's house, but she wasn't there either. Amy would later say that she found this to be pretty weird, but she wasn't panicked or anything like that. She tried calling Kelly the next day, but got no answer. Now, Kelly's mom, Diana, was not home. She was traveling for work, but her roommate, Laura, realized that something was wrong when she got home on Monday, September 15th, and Kelly wasn't around. So there were several days worth of newspapers sitting at the front door that hadn't been picked up. The plants had not been watered. The dog hadn't been fed, and this was just not like Kelly at all. There were messages on the answering machine from Kelly's boss wondering where she was because she had missed work. Whoa. So Kelly was reported missing to the Redlands Police Department, and her mom, Diana, rushed back home to find Kelly. Like I was saying earlier, there's a very low crime rate in Redlands, hardly any murder. So while they took it seriously, they thought perhaps this was like a runaway case. When investigators discovered Kelly's car parked at the Ontario Mills Mall, which is like 30 minutes away, they got worried. There weren't any obvious red flags, blood or whatnot, but her purse and her keys were found in the car. There wasn't any security camera footage of the parking lot, unfortunately, so they had no idea of how that car actually got there. So, a large-scale search for Kelly was launched. Kelly's mother, Diana, made a public plea for her daughter's safe return. Helicopters were launched, but ultimately nothing turned up. Kinsey and the other friends helped with the search for Kelly, of course. Kinsey, Damien, and even Elodie went to the many vigils that were held for Kelly. So on October 4th, 2003, now we're back to the beginning of the story, there was kids playing paintball and they found a body that turned out to be Kelly Bullwinkle. Near her body, they found a .25 caliber shell casing and a shovel. Kelly had been buried in a very shallow grave, only partially buried, and an old raggedy couch had been pulled on top of her to conceal it. She obviously had been out there for a while. Her body was pretty decomposed, but since it had been partially covered, it was still intact. The medical examiner determined the cause of death to be homicide. Obviously, there was 2 bullet wounds to her skull. The first wound was actually just like a grazing wound. It definitely did not kill her, but it may have knocked her down. The second one was at close range, and that one definitely killed her. She had otherwise not been assaulted in any way, and she had no defensive wounds. So after this discovery, investigators could rule out a few scenarios. This was not a sex crime. This was not likely a drug-related crime. When police interviewed Kinsey, she gave them the names of 2 people that could be potential suspects, Mike and Eric, which are real people, but for this story, fake names. So Kinsey told the police that Kelly did partake in recreational drug use. She said that they would do cocaine and meth that Kelly would get from these two guys that she worked with, Mike and Eric. Well, lucky for police, these two guys were already in custody for some other shitty thing they did. But they were immediately cleared because they had a strong alibi. You know, they were busy committing theft and being accused of sexual assault the night that Kelly disappeared. So we're also assuming that Kelly disappeared on that evening that she was supposed to meet with Amy Locust, but never showed up. Come to think of it, Locust is a cool last name too. Locust. In another interview with police, Kinsey's cousin told them that Damien had a silver handgun in his glove box. When Kinsey and Damien were first interviewed by police, they were each other's alibis. So they had gone to Denny's for dinner that night and then to see Once Upon a Time in Mexico at the movies, and they had receipts for both. Well, police questioned Damien again and asked him about that night. He gave them the same alibi, you know, that he went to dinner and a movie with Kinsey and then went to Elodie's house. When they asked him if he had a gun, he said no. Well, when they told him that somebody saw one in his vehicle, he was like, oh, that gun. He claimed that the gun belonged to his brother. You know, his brother had given it to him. He had bought it from some guy named Josh. He claimed that the gun made him nervous, so he got rid of it, you know, just ditched it in a sewer. They did check the sewer that Damien claimed to have dumped this gun in, and, you know, of course, no gun. They tracked down this Josh person and verified that he was the one who had sold the gun to Damien's brother. He said he had shot a couple of test rounds in his backyard. Test rounds, you say? Well, the police found these test rounds, these spent shell casings in the backyard, and when they compared those casings against the casings from the crime scene, bingo bango, a match. Then they went back to Kinsey. They basically told her that they knew that they were full of shit. You know, liar, liar, pants is on fire. Pantses? The plural of pants is pants. Whatever. Well, she folded like origami.
A goose.
So Kinsey told the police that she and Damien had planned to play a prank on Kelly. They drove out to Ghost Town on Friday and they dug a grave. They were going to tell Kelly that they were going to kill her and bury her. Hilarious. The next day, September 13th, 2003, she asked Kelly to hang out, telling her that she wanted to make it up to her for being such a bitch and for fighting with her lately. So Kinsey met her and they drove Kelly's car up to Ghost Town. Then they waited for Damien to get off work and they just chilled out together, smoking weed or whatever. And when Damien showed up, they all walked over to this hole. So Damien was supposed to pull out the gun to scare Kelly. Remember, this is supposed to be a joke. But the gun went off, grazing Kelly's head. Then she fell to the ground and she was moaning in a lot of pain. And then Kinsey took the gun from him to put her out of her misery, but the gun jammed, so Damien fixed it and then handed it back to her. And Kinsey had never fired a gun before, so she stepped closer to Kelly and fired it at her head at close range. She repeated again that this was supposed to be a joke. You know, it was an accident, and then she was helping her to not suffer. Okay, so a few things. First of all, if this is a joke, why was the gun loaded? 2, if it accidentally went off, why not take your friend to the hospital for help? Oh, and then they accidentally changed their clothes. Then they accidentally concealed Kelly's body. Then they accidentally hid Kelly's car at the mall. Then, I guess they accidentally went to Denny's for dinner and then accidentally, went to the movies after they accidentally killed their friend. Well, on November 4th, 2003, after meeting with police detectives, Elodie went to Damien's house and told him and his family that the police had matched these bullet casings to ones at the crime scene. At that point, Damien confessed to Elodie that he did it. He told her pretty much the same story about pulling a prank on Kelly that went terribly wrong, and then he freaked out and shot Kelly to end her suffering. When the police later served a search warrant on Damien's home, they found 2 bullets from the same gun in a jewelry box in his bedroom. On November 5th, 2003, 20-year-old Kinsey and 19-year-old Damien were both arrested and charged with first-degree murder. There was also a sentence enhancer of using a firearm in the crime. In January 2005, they were tried together but with separate juries. The cases focused on Kinsey being the mastermind of the plan to eliminate Kelly as, a rival from the equation, and Damien went along with it to impress Kinsey and gain respect, as some goth edgelord. On March 9th, 2005, each jury reached a verdict. Kinsey was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 45 years to life in prison. Damien's jury deadlocked 11-1. 11-1! Murder convictions had to be unanimous, just so you know. Also, as frustrating as it had to be for the rest of the jury, kudos to that one person who refused to bend. That's the most important thing that you can do as a juror. Make your own decision. Anyway, since that trial resulted in a hung jury, that means it has to start over, but, with a new group of people for the jury. But before that second trial was supposed to start, Damien signed a plea deal for second-degree murder, and he was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. So Kinsey has since appealed her conviction, of course, but it's been denied. Damien was granted parole in 2018, but the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, elected to overrule that decision, citing that Guerrero was only in the beginning steps of understanding how he came to commit the brutal crime. But on February 1st, 2023, after 4 parole hearings, Damien Guerrero was granted parole and is set to be released upon final review of the case. So let's get back to Candace H., the viewer who recommended the story. Remember I said that she had a personal connection to the case? Well, here's what she said. Hey Sarah, when I was about 17, I worked at a local amusement park, Pharaoh's Lost Kingdom in Redlands, California, with Damien Guerrero in the laser tag department. For whatever reason, we were always scheduled to work together. He was cool, always helped handle the difficult clients, and brought his own mixed CDs with techno music to play while the customers waited in line for the games. Sometimes when there was no customers, we would play each other in laser tag or play the shooting arcade game. Randomly, he stopped coming to work and my supervisor made up an excuse for his absence, which didn't make sense because he never flaked. First, they said he was out sick and then resigned. Read in the news a little later that he was convicted of killing his friend Kelly. At the time, the rumor was it was a satanic killing related to some love triangle, but not really sure what happened. The whole thing shocked me because, yeah, he was a little goth, but was super chill, sometimes moody, but nice. Would really love to find out what happened after the rumors ended. Thank you. Well, Candace, I hope this story clears it up. And that is the story of Kelly Bullwinkle. Again, if you want to know any of the makeup that I used in today's look, just look down in the description box because I have linked everything if it's still available. If it's not available, I will link something similar. Thank you so much for hanging out today and for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this one, then consider subscribing to this channel before you leave today. I upload new videos here on YouTube every week, most weeks, and you can follow me on most of the other socials as well. That is it for now. I will catch you next time in the next video. Bye! ¿Dónde están, favorite brush? Again, if you want to know any of the music, get it together. They pulled the core. They pulled the core over. Ah, there you are. Found you. Somebody asked about the tape. How do you get it from taking your makeup off? Stick it to your hand a couple times first to unsticky it. Going hard with this bronzer today. I think I have an age spot. Oh no. Just trying to glow like J-Lo.